long before frantic headlines screamed of buried cities, before humming drills relentlessly bit into the earth. Los Angeles slept soundly on ground it trusted implicitly, a tight illusion held fast by concrete and asphalt. Streets meticulously mapped the surface, entirely concealing the cartography of something far, far older, slumbering beneath the burgeoning metropolis, a city still grappling with the shadows of the Julian petroleum scandal and the recent controversial end of Prohibition. They were profoundly wrong, because the dust swirling through Los Angeles settled upon foundations laid by another race entirely, older than the Spanish missions clinging to the hillsides, older than the bubbling La Brea tar pits trapping ancient bones, older even than the memory of the first great fire that scoured the basin clean. These beings didn't build monuments for fickle gods. They built against the crushing weight of time itself, carving vast archives deep into the bedrock. When the sky above bled liquid fire and the vast oceans boiled away, they didn't perish in the inferno. They deliberately descended, and they waited. They were the original architects of the underworld, the very first inhabitants of the LA basin, the lizard people. George Warren Shufelt wasn't hunting for myths, not initially. He was a man grounded in calculations, precise angles, and promising mineral assays. An Ohio native who had drifted through careers as a sometime salesman before embracing the life of an inventor and prospector, he carried a persistent, unscratchable itch for discovery. He arrived in a Los Angeles choked by the suffocating dust of the Great Depression, a city shimmering with cruel mirages of fortune, a desperate magnet drawing hopefuls and hustlers in equal measure, fertile ground for treasure-hunting schemes. Shufelt carried not fragile hope, but his instruments. A worn leather satchel bulging with tools, rolled blueprints yellowed and cracked at the edges, and his strange, unique invention, the radio X-ray. It looked like a madman's fever dream cobbled together, gleaming copper coils suspended within a fragile glass vacuum tube, crudely wired to a panel boasting cryptic dials and symbols hastily etched onto tarnished brass plates. At its core, a sensitive compass needle quivered erratically. Shufelt placed immense faith in it, or at least convincingly claimed to. He swore he'd followed its insistent hum across desolate landscapes to unearth hidden veins of desert gold, carefully calibrating it to listen for the Earth's secret, resonant frequencies. He profoundly believed it could hear the very bones of the world. He convinced others too. Treasure hunters Ray Martinez and Rex Irving, caught by his conviction, brought him into their speculative quest. Their initial target, staked out in the uncertain early months of 1933, wasn't a lost civilization. It was something simpler, far more conventional, fueled by the desperation of the times. Chests heavy with Spanish doubloons, perhaps even Aztec gold, rumored for decades to be buried beneath the historic rise of Fort Moore Hill, then a significant landmark stretching prominently from Temple Street to Cesar Chavez Avenue. Guided by fragments of local lore and perhaps a dubious ancient map, they diligently secured legitimate permits from the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, signing a formal agreement to split any recovered riches 50-50 with the county. A raw shaft was sunk. Volunteers, men gaunt and desperate for any work, any sliver of the dream, attacked the ground with shovels. By March, they had clawed through 28 feet of stubborn, unyielding California clay. They found only packed earth, sharp rocks, and soul-crushing mud. The first dream sputtered and died right there in the mire. But Shufelt wasn't easily deterred. Perhaps the sting of failure sparked a new, far more elaborate vision in his restless mind. Or perhaps, just perhaps, the device truly did register something else entirely, something unexpected deep below. One cool evening, the air sharp with the medicinal scent of eucalyptus and the damp promise of impending rain, he stood once more atop Fort Moore Hill. Below him, the city lights sprawled like scattered jewels, utterly indifferent to his quest. He adjusted the dials on his contraption, the copper wire within the tube glowing with a faint, eerie light. The needle trembled, skipped erratically across its gauge, then suddenly swung violently, pinning itself hard against the stop with a faint click. The frequency was wrong, too deep, too resonant, too hollow, not gold, not solid rock. Space, not empty space, structured space. He moved the device slowly, methodically, his boots crunching softly on the dry earth. The needle responded instantly, mapping out distinct voids beneath his feet. Tunnels, impossibly smooth-walled and unnervingly regular. vaults shaped like massive buried hearts. An intricate and vast network spreading unseen beneath the sleeping, unsuspecting city. His calculations, scribbled hastily onto his blueprints, suggested 1,900 square feet of tunnels, an astonishing 9,000 square feet of floor space within large chambers, some vast enough, he would later claim with wide eyes, to comfortably house 1,000 families. Days bled into weeks. He walked the dusty hillsides, paced the city streets, the device humming softly in his hands like a captive insect. He sketched furiously, measured angles, triangulated positions, and slowly, undeniably, a pattern emerged from the chaotic readings. A sinuous curve here, a sharp, deliberate angle there, a vast, interconnected geometry hidden beneath the urban sprawl. It formed a shape intimately known to any desert creature, any man who'd watched the heat shimmer rise violently from sun-baked stone. The cavern resembled a lizard, colossal. Its tail coiled deep beneath the future site of the Central Library at 5th and Hope. Its long spine ran the length of Broadway. Its immense skull rested far below Elysian Park, facing the ancient, dried riverbed. And precisely where the ribs should intersect the spine, the device screamed its loudest protest, the needle vibrating frantically. A cavity, different from the rest, deliberately sealed. The key room, the supposed repository of unimaginable secrets, a history etched onto plates of imperishable gold. Armed now with this new, far grander and potentially terrifying narrative, Shufelt returned to the city officials. He spoke with feverish intensity of an ancient race, the lizard people. He claimed he'd recently traveled to Arizona and met a Hopi elder. Shufelt called him Chief Little Greenleaf, stating his American name was El Macklin, who shared the history of his people. Shufelt asserted the elder spoke of an advanced people, perhaps human, who revered the lizard as a potent symbol of longevity. They supposedly faced utter annihilation 5,000 years ago following a great cataclysm. To survive, they constructed 3 subterranean cities along the Pacific coast, employing unknown mysterious chemicals to literally dissolve solid rock, creating vast, enduring shelters. This compelling narrative, detailing an advanced ancient race, their survival against catastrophe, and their hidden subterranean cities, proved remarkably effective. A new permit was granted, the original 50-50 split still firmly in place. Shufelt quickly hired a fresh crew of men, purchased loads of timber for shoring, and secured a noisy, smoke-belching drill. He started digging again, this time choosing a specific spot on North Hill Street, on the old Banning property overlooking Sunset Boulevard. The demanding work began under a pale, indifferent winter sun. Dirt flew skyward in messy arcs, heavy timbers sank slowly into the damp clay. The drill engine coughed clouds of black, acrid smoke. The Los Angeles Times, under the control of Harry Chandler and in fierce rivalry with Hearst's Examiner, splashed the story across its pages on January 29, 1934, under reporter Jean Bosquet's byline, complete with a glaring typo: Lizard Pulp's Catacomb City hunted. The entire city, hungry for distraction in an era marked by sensations like Amy Semple McPherson's disappearances, watched what the paper dramatically dubbed an engineering soap opera. 2 weeks in, uneasy murmurs started among the weary crew, strange, muffled echoes reverberating up from the drill shaft, tools inexplicably misplaced overnight, a pervasive, unnerving feeling of being watched from the deepening shadows of the hole. Then, one afternoon, a figure materialized silently at the edge of the raw earthworks, tall, weathered like old, cracked leather, carrying a profound silence that seemed to physically push back the grating noise of the digging. He watched Shufelt intently, his eyes dark pools unreadable. Shufelt paused, wiping sweat and grime from his brow with a dirty kerchief. He approached the man cautiously.
"You dig where you shouldn't,"
the man stated. His voice was low, resonant, carrying easily over the drill's clamor. He didn't offer a name. His sheer presence was enough.
"It's city approved,"
Shufelt countered. He gestured vaguely with the rolled permit clutched in his hand. The man ignored the paper completely.
"There are stories,"
he said. His gaze remained fixed on the churning drill bit disappearing into the earth.
"Older than your fleeting cities, older than your god. Stories from before the great flood, before the fire fell from the sky. This land remembers."
He was Hopi, an elder, perhaps the true source of the fragmented legends Shufelt had related. perhaps someone else entirely, drawn by the disturbance. He spoke of a people who came not from the land, but through it, seeking refuge.
Their skin was like stone.
He continued softly.
Their eyes held the memory of the fire they survived. They breathed ash in the aftermath. They built in the dark, hidden places where the terrible memory of the burning sky could not reach them. Some of our oldest legends name them the Anusinom, the ant people, because they lived deep within the earth like ants and emerged to help our ancestors survive the cataclysms. But the name, perhaps, came from misunderstanding what was seen in shadowed times. Beings with hardened skin, faces lacking familiar human noses or outer ears, dwelling in the unseen depths. Perhaps our ancestors saw beings closer to the lizard. Survivors adapted to the underworld and likened them only to the ants, whose homes are also hidden beneath.
Shufelt's hand tightened instinctively on his device.
Underground. The lizard people.
The elder nodded slowly, deliberately, acknowledging Shufelt's term without confirming it as the sole truth.
Cities of refuge, vaults of ancient knowledge. One lies beneath this very hill. Another sleeps soundly under the White Mountain, Shasta. A third drowned centuries ago when the coast surrendered to the hungry sea. They understood the cycles. They knew the fire inevitably returns. So they sealed the doors.
He paused, his dark eyes finally meeting Shufelt's directly.
They wait.
Wait for what?
Shufelt asked. The drill's piercing whine suddenly felt grating, unbearable.
For the imbalance.
The elder replied evenly. When the surface world forgets the sun, when veins of cold iron replace the deep roots of trees, when hunger is packaged deceitfully in promises, the earth groans under the strain, and the old ones stir. He looked pointedly at Shufelt's radio X-ray.
Your machine hears only the echo. You stand upon their threshold. But understand this. Some doors are best left unopened. The guardians do not sleep.
He turned without another word, melting back into the city's hazy afternoon light as silently and abruptly as he had arrived, leaving Shufelt standing alone by the noisy, gouging hole. The elder's words about stone skin, missing features, and the ant people echoing in his mind. Miles away, in a small, unassuming house in Pico Rivera, Edith Robinson woke with a sharp gasp, the bedsheets clinging damply to her skin. The date was December 22, 1933, weeks before the LA Times article would break the story to the public. The dream clung to her like palpable grave dust, a vision corroborated later by witnesses she confided in. Vast, echoing tunnels lit by an internal, cold, unnatural light. Creatures, tall and disturbingly scaled, unlike Shufelt's initial description of advanced humans, gathered before immense, shimmering golden panels. The panels pulsed rhythmically with glyphs that writhed like living fire. Not writing as she knew it, but pure, raw information burning itself directly into her mind. She saw the city above, her city, consumed by roaring fire and violent earthquake, skyscrapers buckling like paper, screams swallowed instantly by the deafening roar of collapsing earth. Then a profound, expectant, waiting silence emanating from deep below. Shaking uncontrollably, she forced herself to write it all down, every terrifying detail, sealing it meticulously in an envelope addressed to a trusted friend. She had never heard of George Shufelt or the dig on Fort Moore Hill, but something beneath the city had apparently reached out, or perhaps warned her. By February 1934, the ambitious dig on North Hill Street was little more than a muddy, waterlogged pit descending 250 feet into the earth. Progress ground to a halt. Groundwater seeped relentlessly in, turning the bottom of the shaft into a thick, impassable slurry. Dense, stubborn boulders blocked the drill's path, defying all efforts. Volunteers drifted away, unnerved by the sheer depth, the strange, heavy stillness that fell over the site at night, and the almost physical feeling of pressure emanating from below. Shufelt pushed onward, fueled by sheer obsession, constantly sketching the outlines his humming device revealed. Nearly 2,000 feet of tunnels meticulously mapped, smooth, arched, impossibly precise. And the tablets. 37 dark, oblong shapes registered clearly by the radio X-ray. Slabs of solid gold, he claimed, 4 feet long by 14 inches wide. Not mere treasure, he insisted, but invaluable records, history itself carved in imperishable metal. March 3rd dawned unnaturally clear and cold. One of the few remaining diggers, a man named Miller, didn't answer the morning roll call. His heavy pickaxe lay exactly where he'd left it, leaning against the timbers. His half-eaten lunch sat undisturbed on a wooden crate nearby. The soft mud around the shaft entrance showed no tracks leading away. He was simply gone, vanished utterly between one weary breath and the next. His mysterious disappearance sent a fresh wave of fear through the camp. Fear, cold and sharp as shattered glass, finally pierced through Shufelt's thick obsession. It settled over the remaining, deeply spooked crew like a tangible shroud. The city bureaucracy, perhaps influenced by powerful figures wary of what Shufelt might uncover, or simply citing legitimate hazards and the lack of results, acted swiftly. Miller's unexplained disappearance, coupled with the utter lack of gold, the increasingly impossible digging conditions, and the escalating costs, was the final straw. Permits were abruptly revoked. Officials cited unstable ground and groundwater hazards as the official reasons, plausible deniability in a city riddled with known geological faults. The public story became one of a failed, overly ambitious gold prospect, simply too dangerous to continue. The shaft was quickly filled, concreted over, the scar on the land smoothed and disguised. Headlines vanished overnight, the media machine moving on to the next sensation. Bureaucracy, perhaps aided by corruption that had flourished during Prohibition and lingered in the city's corridors of power, effectively buried the story, or the elaborate hoax, deeper than any drill could ever hope to reach. Shufelt, suddenly withdrawn and silent, faded completely from public view. He remained in Los Angeles, eventually passing away quietly in North Hollywood in November 1957, leaving behind only a strange map, a persistent mystery, and a host of unanswered questions. The irony, the chilling possibility lingering in the smoggy LA air, is that Los Angeles does possess an astonishingly complex and layered underworld. Vast networks do exist beneath the city, natural geological formations within the unstable earth. Geologists call a tectonic traffic jam, the remnants of the world's largest streetcar system, the Pacific Electric Red Cars, including the echoing Belmont Tunnel, Hollywood subway, that once carried 20 million passengers a year, forgotten pedestrian tunnels beneath downtown streets, some over 200 at their peak, adorned with Art Deco flourishes, like those in Merrill Butler's Figueroa Street tunnels, featuring reflective tiles, many later closed due to safety concerns, and tales of strange sounds. Utility conduits carrying power and water, secure tunnels used to transport prisoners between civic buildings, or bank money beneath watchful eyes. Rumored Prohibition-era smuggling routes, snaking from places like Skid Row to hidden speakeasies like the King Eddie Saloon or the Ambassador Hotel's Coconut Grove. Even potential hidden networks built by early Chinese immigrants. The memory of tragedies like Kathy Fiscus falling into an abandoned well in 1949 only amplified public unease about what lay beneath their feet. Perhaps Shufelt's peculiar device simply detected echoes from these mundane, real voids, which his own wishful thinking, profound desperation, or even deliberate deception twisted into compelling evidence of a lost world. A convenient, rational explanation to mask an inconvenient, unsettling legend. But the deeper tunnels remain stubbornly marked on Shufelt's map. The geometrically shaped spaces, the enigmatic key room, and sometimes, perhaps, the threshold is inadvertently crossed. November 8, 1958. The air was damp and cool. Charles Wetzel was driving the lonely, dark stretch along North Main Street near Riverside Drive, where the often tamed Santa Ana River had swollen and overflowed its concrete banks after heavy rains. His car radio spat intermittent bursts of static, the signal struggling. Pale, watery moonlight glinted eerily on the muddy water covering the asphalt ahead. Then, sudden, violent movement near the dark shape of the bridge abutment. Something large and heavy emerged laboriously from the churning, debris-filled water. It stood shockingly tall, 6, maybe 7 feet. Its surface wasn't skin, but was covered in slick, overlapping scales that resembled large, stiff, wet leaves, glistening darkly in the moonlight. It possessed a disturbingly round, featureless head, almost like a scarecrow's burlap sack, with no discernible nose or ears. But embedded in that head were two large eyes that glowed with a sickening internal fluorescent intensity. Below the eyes, a sharp vertical slit opened, a beak-like mouth. Its arms were impossibly long and spindly, ending in what looked like multi-jointed claws. Before Wetzel could fully process the impossibility, it lunged, fast. It hit the car with surprising force, sharp claws screeching horribly against the thick safety glass of his windshield, leaving deep gouges. Primal terror seized Wetzel. He stomped the accelerator hard, the engine roaring in protest as the tires spun momentarily in the slick mud. He felt a distinct, sickening bump, as if he'd run directly over the thing's lower body or leg. He risked a frantic glance back in the rearview mirror, heart pounding against his ribs. Nothing. Just the dark, churning river water reflecting the indifferent moon. Later, the sheriff, skeptical but thorough, documented the deep, inexplicable gouges scoring the windshield. In the soft mud beside the road, they found no footprints. No rational explanation was ever offered for the encounter or the damage. Decades later, Colusa, Northern California, 2017. A quiet, isolated farming town nestled among vast almond orchards, far from the urban sprawl of LA, but perhaps connected by deeper roots. A woman sat relaxing on her porch swing, lulled by the late-night quiet. The clock inside glowed 3:12 a.m. Her dog, usually calm, began to whine nervously, a low growl vibrating in its chest. It pressed tightly against her legs, hackles fully raised, staring intently, not at the darkness, but at the thick, ground-hugging fog pooling unnaturally under the solitary sodium street lamp at the end of her drive. A figure slowly, haltingly emerged from the densest part of the mist, roughly man-shaped, but fundamentally terrifyingly wrong. Its gait was jerky, stuttering, the legs seeming to bend backward at the knee in a way that screamed unnatural. Its skin wasn't uniform. It appeared to shimmer constantly, shifting in the harsh yellow light from a pale, corpse-like pink to an iridescent, oily, sickly green, and back again. It stopped directly beneath the lamp, bathed in the stark illumination. It turned its head with a slow, deliberate, almost mechanical movement. The head lacked clear features, but it possessed eyes, dark, intelligent, and fixed directly on her. And then, impossibly, it smiled. The mouth stretched far too wide across the lower part of the face, revealing rows of teeth. Too numerous, too thin, too needle-sharp. A predator's smile, devoid of any human warmth or recognition. The woman didn't scream. A profound, ice-cold shock paralyzed her vocal cords. It wasn't just fear. It was a deep, cellular revulsion, an understanding that she was looking at something ancient and utterly alien. She sold the house the very next day, packed her life into boxes, moved east, put thousands of miles between herself and that foggy corner. She never looked back. The almond orchards still grow there, undisturbed. Their roots run deep into the California earth. George Warren Shufelt didn't fail entirely. He undeniably succeeded in finding something. A doorway, perhaps. A threshold carelessly brushed against. He glimpsed a history hidden not merely by the passage of time, but by deliberate choice, or perhaps ancient catastrophe. The lizard people of his original narrative were advanced human survivors. The scaled, glowing-eyed, sharp-toothed creatures seen later? Something else entirely. Perhaps the architects of silence he was warned about, the true keepers of the subterranean records, the guardians who do not sleep, or perhaps simply predators from the deep earth, ancient denizens patiently waiting for the cycle to inevitably turn again, disturbed by the noise and weight above. They are still here, beneath the roaring freeways, beneath the strained foundations, beneath the fragile, cracking illusion of permanence we build across this tectonically restless land. The city breathes atop their vast, buried kingdom. They tolerate the noise, the crushing weight, the blissful ignorance. But the earth inevitably shifts. The pressure relentlessly builds. Doors, once sealed with ancient knowledge, can eventually be opened. And the key room waits. From all of us at DeadNet Studios, thank you for walking this road into shadow. Until next time, watch the ground and listen.
Long before the city sprawl on asphalt, steel and light, Los Angeles was sleeping. blind within the night. Built on trust and illusion, thin on ground they thought they knew, ignoring ancient maps below and secrets buried through. They were profoundly wrong. Something older waits below. Beneath the streets of angels, where the sun just hides its face, lies a kingdom built of silence, of an ancient hidden race. They went down to the darkness when the sky bled fire down. Now the earth remembers always. Beneath this sleeping town. Shufelt came with visions and a gadget strange and cold, searching not for doubloons but secrets ages old. His radio X-ray whispered of voids beneath the stone, mapping out the serpent shape on bedrock all alone. The lizard's buried body, vast tunnels in the clay, leading to a sealed chamber, waiting for the day. Beneath the streets of angels, where the sun just hides its face, lies a kingdom built of silence, of an ancient hidden race. They went down to the darkness when the sky bled fire down. Now the earth remembers always. Beneath the sleeping town. The dream came to the woman of scaled things in the deep, a warning etched in terror while the clueless city slept.